Hello, and welcome to the Authentically Elisa podcast, Unmasking Your True Self. I'm Elisa Bogarts, your guide on this journey to discovering the most genuine version of yourself. Each episode is a step towards unveiling the incredible power that lies within you as we strip away all the shoulds and shine a light on the coulds. Together we'll explore the path of self-empowerment, self-confidence, and the courage to be unapologetically you. Thank you for being here.
All right, so let's dive into today's episode. Today, we're going to be talking about how things in life like marathons and running and traveling and how they really shape us and drive our mindset, and how there's such similarities between these and running a business. And today, my amazing guest is Nikki Green, and Nikki is a life and business resilient expert. She's also a motivational speaker and author of 5 books with her 6th on the way. So she's been in the international business industry for over 20 years and is an avid traveler, visiting 16 plus countries and completing 7 marathons, which is more than me, and dozens of triathlons across 3 continents, which is so cool. Nikki has dedicated her life to assisting others reduce their fear and go after their dreams. And her greatest passion is empowering people to reach their full potential. Hey, Nikki, I'm so glad you're here.
Hello, my friend. It's so good to see you again.
Me too. So tell everybody about you and about, how you got into this field of work and just why you're so passionate about it.
Yeah, I think like a lot of people, just became a little disillusioned during the pandemic. I had a lot of life changes going on top of the world going crazy. But, my corporate job just wasn't fulfilling me like it had in the past. Just a lot of changes that were really about the dollars. Yeah, like a lot of people during the pandemic, I decided to do a pivot. My business, it really started from nothing. I didn't really have an idea. It's really kind of a funny story. I just left my corporate job because it just wasn't aligning with who I wanted to be. And it wasn't the people I wanted to surround myself with. Throughout my 20 years working in Silicon Valley, I worked with a lot of amazing people, really incredibly smart people, and I learned a lot from them. And I always said, no matter how hard I was working, the difference was the people that I had around me. And so as I left corporate, one of the things I really said is I want to make better leaders. And I want to help people that want to start businesses figure out how to do that and how they do that transition that I did of leaving my corporate career and then starting into this wonderful world of speaking and writing and coaching. So it's been a great journey, and it was great having you on my show and learning a little about yours. And it seems like we've had a little bit of parallel paths, but on different continents. And so it's kind of fun to see everyone else's pandemic pivot evolve as well.
Yeah. Our stories are very similar, even how you're just talking now about the people that you're surrounded with and how that makes such a difference. I remember doing this exercise where you had to kind of like map out sort of like the peaks and troughs of my career. And it was like, when were things really good? And then when were things really bad? And the correlation that I found with all of them was the people that I was working with. Like all of a sudden I would change departments, or I would get a new manager or be in a new team or something. And then either the team was fabulous and we worked really well together, or it was toxic. And I really noticed that. I was like, wow, I got to surround myself, make sure that I'm surrounded by, people that I work well with, which is what I love about working in the coaching industry, because coaches are just such wonderful people. And there's like the positivity and the support and the community feel that we have with coaches. Like, there's very few people that I've come across that I had that kind of toxic vibe off of. Like very, very, very few, which is I just love it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's surrounding yourself with people that see the possibility. I think that was another challenge that I started to see, as everything was really negative. It was like, just do more with less. You go ahead and just fire that person for no random reason. Just all these kind of strikes against like the humanity of it. And I really love just really being able to refocus. And why so many, I think, of us have become coaches as well, as that was one of the few things I actually got to do in my job, that it became so focused on the numbers that actually managing the people and helping them grow and develop became the last most important thing, and definitely wasn't a thing I was rewarded for as a manager. And so I love getting back into doing that with people now, whether that's in athletic endeavors or whether that's in their business. I have kind of all these different avenues that I focus on, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. That's the other neat thing about being an entrepreneur and kind of being out on your own, that you can get it in so many different ways and so many different places and work with different people, as opposed to being kind of like pigeonholed into this one role that you've been hired for that has very strict rules and responsibilities and you got to stay in your little box.
Exactly.
So, what does authenticity mean to you?
Yeah, for me, this is a really big one, and something I felt throughout my career and really became the foundation of my business is, for me, authenticity is really about embracing our uniqueness. And then one of my first early talks I did as I started my business was unique starts with you. But really, it's about really embracing those core parts of ourself, of our experience, of our culture, of our aspirations for the future, and bringing those together in ways that have never been done before. One of the beautiful things about this knowledge economy that we're in is we are all very individual snowflakes of what we're trying to build, because no one has the exact same experience and knowledge that we have. We may have had kind of parallel or similar paths, but the exact thing that you've gone through, from your family upbringing to your schooling to your career to travel to other hobbies, all those things give you a unique set of things that you can bring to people. And so I really just love allowing people to harness that and really step into it, because I think for too long, most people have been taught to conform, to obey, to, just be like everybody else. And blending in means we never get a chance to stand out. So I really love uniqueness for me as kind of my definition for authenticity.
Well, I love asking this question because I always get such a different answer from everybody that comes on this show, and embracing your uniqueness. That is wonderful. I hadn't heard that from anyone else. And yeah, I love that. You said that it starts with you, right?
Yep.
Good. Yeah. Just embrace that uniqueness. And it's true. Yeah. And I think that's also um, what's so interesting about business as well, right? Or even being a coach, and the things that we offer, right? And how we offer it, that we all do it from our unique points of view or from our unique way of delivering it. And it's all very unique, which is something that like a lot of business coaches teach, right? Like that there's no one out there like you, and therefore what you bring is valuable because no one else does it the same way.
Exactly. It also makes it really challenging because it means you have to be extremely motivated from inside out. You need to be intrinsically motivated by yourself. I think for a long time, right, we go to school, we get good grades, we do well, our parents are happy with us, we do well at work, we get a promotion. And all these external validations are the things that have been driving us and kind of stuck in this employee mindset. To be an entrepreneur, you have to be an intrinsically motivated person. You have to find that thing within yourself that believes in the path that you're taking, believes in the methodology you're sharing with others, and believes it will make them better. And some days that's easy, and some days that's really hard. It's always a little bit of a roller coaster, but the reward at the end of that journey is so much more than that fleeting moment of that external validation.
Yeah. And you're right. We grow up learning that that's the way that we get it. We get it externally, do this, and we're like, be the good girl or get the praise or whatever. Or even if it's sort of like a competitive thing too, like, look at me, I won, like I'm number one. And it is sort of like this external thing. Yeah. And to go internal and to try to do it from a place, I think as well, like when it comes to like motivation, from a place that isn't like a negative motivation, like from a fear place, which I think a lot of motivation is driven by that. And I've been struggling with that myself as an entrepreneur, being like, okay, I'm not getting the external anymore. I have to go into my uniqueness and me. But I don't want to come from it from a fear place of like, oh, I have to, or oh, I'm going to fail, or, what are people going to think of me, or, and try and find a positive internal motivation, which is an interesting mindset to tap into.
And it requires us to be so much more in tune with who we are. I felt too, like a lot of times in my corporate job, I had to have this facade of what I was supposed to be. If someone asks you how you are, you just say, fine, I'm happy, I'm great. Today's going to be an amazing day, even when you're not. And as an entrepreneur, removing some of those masks and really just letting some of that happen is difficult, but it's good. It's so much more healthy for us to not be suppressing a lot of those true feelings and get to the root of it. Because the quicker you can do that, the quicker you can move yourself into the transformation you're trying to get for yourself or for the clients that you serve.
Yeah. And yeah, having that mindset is really key also for like if you have big goals or like what it is that you want to accomplish, in your business or in your life, that's really, it's not just about starting something new, but it's about accomplishing big goals, right? And you really need to have that to drive you to achieve them.
Exactly. At the beginning of the year, or usually around my birthday too, it's kind of funny. I go through a goal achievement exercise, and a lot of people get focused on the goal setting because it's very exciting to do new stuff. And whatever those things are, they can be physical fitness, they can be spending more time with your family, they can be doing better in your business. But the goal setting is always, again, like this almost external exercise. And what I really try to focus on is, what's the goal achievement? How can we continue to set milestones that are small, that may not seem that exciting, but are important to get us on that path to the bigger goal? And that's a very different approach because we always kind of focus on that. What's the end goal? What's the big picture? And I think even some people in our industry are always like, oh, be a 6-figure coach, be a 7-figure coach, and all those big goals. But is that really what you want? Are you resonating with the goal? And what inside you is going to motivate you to do that? And some of those smaller goals are more important and more transformative, honestly, than even hitting the big one at the end.
Yes. And I love to do that with myself too, is even just have like weekly goals, like little things. And that's part of that, the movement towards the bigger goal, like part of that achievement, right? It's like, okay, like I even break down sort of like my year, quarter, month, and then into the week. And it's all those little steps. And at the end of the week, it's like, oh, okay, like what went well, right? Like you're looking back at it and be like, what did I achieve in the last week? Like, oh, I ticked off everything. Like it's fantastic. Or I'm like, making my way towards what it is that I want to do and really celebrating that, right? Taking the time to actually to look at it and be like, yes, that's working really well. I'm going to keep doing that.
Yeah, I think that's what we don't do enough of as well. It's like we're so busy pointing out the failures, the mistakes, the missteps. We're not realizing how far we've actually come. And so as we hit these mini milestones, really taking time to celebrate. One of the things I always do in my community, at least once a month, is we have a virtual happy hour. Hey, just come, no real agenda, right? Let's just hang out like we normally would if we all work together. And let's talk about how things are going and let's celebrate the great things that are happening. And I think we need to definitely keep doing more of those types of things because it's easy to get bogged down with Zoom gloom and you're constantly staring at the screen. But it's like those little things can be just as important and keep you on track when you have, again, even that little bit of external cheerleading to say, yeah, good job. I'm proud of you.
Yeah. We always have to recognize them. So speaking of this with big goals, you've achieved some huge ones with even writing 5 books, you've done marathons, you've done triathlons, you've traveled, and how, really why physical movement is key to our forward progress in our business. Like I love how you love to tie those two together. So let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, some of it is my upbringing. So as I talk to people, I find some people have some really negative connotations around what fitness is. But for me, my mother was a collegiate gymnast. So as soon as I could walk, I was tumbling in the gym. All of my uncles, everybody played sports of some variety or lots of varieties. And so fitness was fun. It meant it brought the family together. And it was just a natural part of everything we did, from riding our bikes to the library to go get books or going to the park to have a picnic and play, Frisbee. That's what I remember. And that's what resonates with me. Despite, playing volleyball all the way through college, then coaching, triathlons, all these things, I can do the hard things because they remind me of the fun stuff. When I first got into triathlons, you're like, oh my gosh, okay, I got to fit in swimming and biking and running and all this stuff into my schedule on top of working 60 plus hours on my corporate job. But when I got on my bike for the first time, I remembered being that little girl. I remembered like going to the park with my mom, to then stop at the library and get some books because I was a huge nerd and wanted to read all the time. And so I keep those memories with me as I do some of these big things. And what I realized is I did so much better in my career when I had that physical outlet to relieve the stress. It wasn't like, oh my goodness, I need to train 10 hours plus go to work. It was like, I get to relieve some of this stress, then I will have so much more energy to do a great job when I get there. And I really like to encourage people, especially now that we're working at home so much, that this physical movement is going to be key for us to keep that momentum going. We can't just sit here and stare at the screen. The movement will help your brain be healthy, and the healthier your brain is and your heart and lungs and everything else combined, then the more you can do for yourself and for your clients.
Yeah, so true. Just the other day, I was, talking about Zoom gloom. I was like, I don't know, I think it was 6 hours of back-to-back Zoom or something. It was absolutely ridiculous. And I remember just being like, oh, like, I'm so exhausted and tired. And I was like, but it was a nice day outside. And I was like, I should go for a walk, as opposed to just going and like flopping on the couch because I was so exhausted, which is really what I wanted. But I was like, maybe, like go for a walk. I haven't gone for a walk in a while. And so I went for a little walk and I came back and I felt so much better. Just getting that fresh air and just going for like, it was like a 30-minute walk around the neighborhood. And it just made me feel so much better. And I was actually, I didn't come back to work because I was like, nah, too much Zoom. But but I had like the energy then too. Because, I think that if I would have just flopped on the couch, then maybe I would have ordered takeout or had a drink or, done something to try to make myself feel better through consumption as opposed to just getting some fresh air and going on a little walk.
Yeah, and that's really true. I find that there's kind of this positive domino effect and the negative domino effect of you just take that one step in the right direction, just make that one better choice, and then the other choices come good too. And even if you take a little side step and indulge a little bit, that's fine, right? Like we're not meant to be perfect. But I think this is this perpetual thing that, especially when we were just so stuck inside, that it was like, okay, well, I'm not going anywhere, so I can have one more drink. I can watch one more Netflix show. I can, right, whatever all the things were. And so trying to figure out how to reset that balance to just, especially like it was raining the last 2 days. I sure as heck did not want to go outside and walk, but I was like, well, at least it's not snowing here in Chicago. So, we got to take that step now. When you think it's uncomfortable, it can always be worse.
Yeah, right. Totally. And we were talking just before we hit record here, but like we were talking about how to use like how marathon training has this kind of like up and down and build up, and where you taper this periodization, these techniques to train, and how we can like even apply that for our business. Tell the listeners about what you mean about that.
Yeah, I work with a lot of young people and a lot of teachers. And one of the things I realize as I look back on, my schooling is we really celebrate the doing too much method of studying, right? And working. We go, oh, I crammed for the test. So, I get a pat on the back. I stayed up and pulled an all-nighter. And it's just, these kind of behaviors are not healthy. It doesn't mean we're actually retaining the information for a long term, and we're doing damage to our bodies because we're not getting sleep and rest, and we're creating unnecessary stress. And one of the wonderful things I learned, and I know, well, when you run marathons too, is that's not going to fly. And some of this goes back to the goal setting as well. I always joke because there's this episode of How I Met Your Mother where Marshall can't run the New York City Marathon because he gets injured. And so Barney says he's just going to step in. And he's like, well, you didn't train. He's like, you just go out and run. There is no step two, right? And I think a lot of people think about that in their business and sometimes in marathon training, but it's like, okay, there's the long-term goal. But again, how do we break this down into smaller goals? And it's about you normally in a 1-month time span, you have 3 weeks where you're running a little bit more. And then the 4th week, you run a little bit less and you do kind of a rest week. It's not that you don't run. It's not that you wouldn't work on your business, but it's as you're working towards those goals, how do you break them down into kind of 3 incremental milestones? Today I need to do, 5 calls to customers to try to close sales. Okay, well, next week I'm going to do 7. And then the week after that, I'm going to do 9. It's figuring out what that incremental looks like for you and your business, same as you would a marathon. You don't go out and run 26 miles. You don't go out and make $1 million overnight. So thinking about those things is really important. And the best part about it is the break. It's not push, 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 stay up all night, don't sleep, don't leave your computer. It's how do we take a break? And I actually work with my clients to plan their breaks first and plan the work second. And so that way you're sure you're really thinking of those things in advance of when are those important dates in my family that I want to be there? When are those times where I know I'm going to push a lot, so I need to step back? And maybe that's resonating with you too from some of your training and your business.
Yeah, it is for sure. And you can do it again in lots of different ways. I think that you can plan in these breaks. And yeah, it's true with marathons. Like, you run a distance and then you run a little bit further and then you run a little further, like over the 3 weeks. And then, yeah, you taper. So you have to let your body rest. And even sometimes I found in my marathon training, the week where you ran less kilometers or miles, it was actually harder for some reason on my body. It was like, oh, this is actually like feeling tougher than the longer distance. And maybe that was something psychological, or just like the body is like actually needs the rest. And so it maybe doesn't want to run, but you're doing it anyway. But yeah, it needs to have that taper. And even as you get closer to the race day, you actually have like a couple of weeks of really bringing your distances down so that your body can kind of rest and recuperate, and you know that you've done it. And so you know that you can achieve it on race day. Like you've done all the training you need to do. You don't need to keep it up and kind of kill yourself. And it's the same kind of thing with in the business. Like I was thinking about, there's, in the coaching world, there's these 3-day events that people have all the time, and they are exhausting. Some of them are like 11-hour days, and they give you breaks and things, and some of them are over the weekend. And I've noticed that if I do that, it's like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and like usually sometimes I don't even attend on the Sunday because I'm so exhausted. And I think it was because I didn't, like you were saying, I didn't look at my schedule. I didn't think about the break. I thought about the break afterwards. Like I'll block my Monday to be like, okay, this is a rest day. Don't try to like not have much Zoom, or maybe even just take the day off, like have as if it was a Sunday and rest. But also, kind of looking at that schedule and being like, okay, maybe I need to have like a slower day on the Thursday so I can be prepared for this marathon 3-day Zoom event that's going to completely deplete and exhaust me. So I think that's really good because sometimes it can just sort of sneak up on you. And then also if you do this 3-day event, you're like, oh, well, that squishes my week. So now I don't have my Friday to do the things. And I got to do 5 days of work in 4 days and then do 3 days. And now I'm exhausted and totally burnt out and you're not capable of doing anything, or, so you really need to plan it in.
Yeah, and you're not at your best. And again, these are bad behaviors that we've been taught through our careers usually, and even again from school. It's like, no, you just keep working, and okay, well, you didn't get it finished, then you need to work in the evening after your kids go to sleep, or you need to come in on the weekends and continue to do more work when you don't have any meetings and you can actually get some work done. And so we've conditioned people that that's what you're supposed to do. But the more we're supposed to be creative, the more we need our brain energy and the best of ourselves to create the things that we're trying to create, then that is not going to work. When our brain is fatigued, we're not going to be able to come up with those new great ideas. We're not going to be able to really understand what our clients' needs are and how to solve their problems. And so we're doing a disservice, not just to ourselves, but the people that we can potentially serve. And so I really think the more I can encourage people to really think about what that schedule looks like for them and be planful with it, not burn out and then have to take the day off. But what does that really look like for you, and what's a manageable kind of amount of hours you can work and sleep and get your exercise in?
Yes, get the exercise in too, get that movement in, because that's important as well. And yeah, take care of yourself and have time for your life. Like how can you plan that all in? And as you were speaking, I just kind of had this like memory of doing my first marathon, and yeah, I didn't train properly for it, and like a lot of people, or you see these, or actually even during the Olympics in 2024, Canada put on this little, it was like a poem that these two people read, and they had all these amazing old videos of people, like winning, but then people also suffering, and you see these marathon runners and they're like running sideways and like can't quite, or like crawling over the finish line or something like that, and it's just like pushing it to that ultimate extreme. And they were talking about how like you need to train, because it is gonna get that last 10 kilometers or 6 miles is gonna get you. If you even if you did train, it's still gonna get you. And so there's that like complete, it becomes like awful and painful, and some people have to crawl over the finish line. And so, but that's almost like with your business burning out, an equivalent, like if you don't train for it and you don't give yourself the rest and you don't like prepare yourself, you're gonna burn out, and then that's gonna be detrimental to you, and you're gonna have to take time off. And then what happens with so many things, that there's such a domino effect of things that happen when you burn out and need to take that rest for yourself. So you need to plan that in to keep yourself going and motivated, and being able to keep up with the work that you want to do.
Absolutely. One stat I don't know, a lot of people know, but 1 hour on stage, even a virtual stage, is equivalent to 8 hours of work. And so if you're planning to get up here and give a great performance, you need to have that energy. And then I just see so many people, you stack all these other things up and you're not really recovering from how hard that effort is. Because again, we're thinking in time units, which isn't really effort. It's quite a different thing. And so the more we can kind of really realize the effort we're trying to put in, and then go recover and be able to go put that same level of energy in the next day, the better off we're going to be. And then our business will reflect that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really being aware of that and how you're feeling. Because even sometimes, like I was saying that other day, where, all of a sudden I just was trying to like write some email for something, some marketing thing. And I was just like, oh, I can't do this after this day of 6 hours of Zoom, I want to go around the couch. But I remember sitting here being like, there's no point in me working right now. Like, I'm not thinking, like, I can't even like think about, I'm just going to sit here and kind of like maybe write a few words and just like stare at the screen, because I'm just in such a brain fog that, it's just kind of pointless, So like actually becoming aware of that and accepting it and being like, okay, I don't have the brain capacity right now to write some marketing emails. Maybe I need a break and then I'll get refreshed and I could come back, or maybe I just save it for another day. And so you really need to, be kind to yourself and not give yourself too many breaks, right? We still want to like achieve that marathon, whatever the goal may be. You still got to make that forward progress and do it at a good pace, right? Like keep to that kind of training plan. But you also need to allow yourself the breaks.
Exactly. It's one thing I learned really important from my writing group as well. When I wrote my first book, I was all by myself. I didn't really quite know what I was doing. I was more writing from a journaling perspective to think about the path I was trying to be on with my business. And I just wrote and stayed up and, and I didn't take care of myself. It was also through the winter here in Chicago. So, it was kind of tough to go outside. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm stuck in anyways. But what it did is it left me very burnt out on writing and not very creative at the end. And so I learned another technique called the Pomodoro technique, which is kind of similar actually to the periodization from marathon running. But it's basically that you set a timer for, let's say, 20 minutes. You work for the 20 minutes and then you get grab a glass of water, whatever, walk around and come back and then set another timer, so that you are getting your mind to be more focused during a short amount of time, knowing it gets a recovery, and then you can go back at it. And once I started doing that, I was able to write like 10x what I did before, because I took those scheduled breaks, even, within an hour of my day, rather than, just try to push through and think of like, I'm going to magically come up with something better if I just keep writing another 5 minutes.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, there it is. That's a testament to it. And also, like, in terms of our physicality, it's good for you, right? Like to not be sitting for so long in the same spot and not moving, and, just get up and have those little breaks. I remember there was some corporation I worked on, and we had this tool. I can't remember what it was called, but it was like this little kind of like cartoon character that would kind of like pop up on your screen and be like, it's time for a break. And like, and you sort of like stretches and stuff. And so you just kind of like stand up and like follow this little cartoon character to do some stretches, or just, even if it was just standing in front of your desk just for a few minutes, and doing some stretches or doing some twists or something like that. And only took a couple of minutes. And then you could get back to work. And I remember thinking that was so cool. People were looking at me weird if I'd be like sort of stretching at my desk, but I was like, no, actually, this is really good for me. And it's amazing somehow how the time flies. Like if you're not paying attention, right? And if you're sort of like in the zone and you can just be going, and it's like, oh, what? It's been 2 hours and I haven't like, moved from my desk yet. Like, yeah, I need to have those little breaks so that you can sustain that energy for longer.
Yeah.
Well, this has been amazing. I love the parallels that we've been talking about, how like all of this really interconnects, and that like, the training that if you think about even like Olympic athletes, or if you're running a marathon, like there is science behind it and specific training in which for you to achieve that big goal. And it's done for a reason, right? And therefore it's really good for us to take that and apply it to the rest of our lives, different parts of our lives, including running our own business, especially as a solopreneur. And to look at, Nikki, you talked about how the goal achievement, like what is the achievement with the goals, and like looking at that in a different way. And and that when you're going to be planning in your time, to plan in the breaks first and then the work second, and really look at how you can do that so that you can really sustain your energy and not burn out, and still have all that creative energy and be able to help the people that you want to help in your business. So Nikki, where can our listeners find you online?
Yeah, they can reach me on my personal site, the nikkigreen360.com, and all my information is there to follow me or connect.
Perfect. And did you have a gift for our listeners?
Well, of course, how can I leave without leaving a gift? So as a part of my Chameleon coaching program, I have a wonderful kind of quick module. It takes less than 5 minutes to do, and it's called The Maze. And if you feel like you're kind of stuck on autopilot and not sure where to turn, The Maze will help you find a new path.
Oh, awesome. Thanks for that. And to finish us off today, do you have any final words of wisdom?
Yeah, I think for me, this quote always kind of resonates, is that we are the ancestors for the next generation. And so what we do is important to lead the way on how they're going to become our future.
Wow. That was deep. It's so true. Yes. Oh, that's got me thinking. I'm like a little lost for words with that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, it's true. Let's lead the way for them. Yeah. Thank you, Nikki.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope it inspired you to live a more authentic life. I'd love your help in inspiring more people to live authentically. So please follow, rate, and leave a review so we can create a ripple effect of authenticity. Until next time, stay true to you, be bold, and thrive on your own terms. This is Elisa, signing off authentically.